everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm doing a heroic haul today in that this is a haul of Hero Arts products which, as many of you will know, especially if you're based in the UK or Europe, are an absolute bugger to get hold of over here. We pay a huge premium when we buy American craft products in the UK, if you don't already know that. Just to give you an example, if something sells in the USA for $10, and let's call that £7, in the UK they will usually sell it for £10. They'll just take the dollar price, put it in pounds. So we're paying basically $5 more for a $10 item than we really should be, effectively. So that's really irritating. And we can get a few things through Seven Hills Crafts, I think the website is. I've not used them yet, but I'm going to later this month because they've got some things I really want from Hero Arts and I want to try them out. But the thing I really wanted to try out was Hero Arts Shadow Ink, because I see people like Jen Maguire, who I'll link to in the iCards, Christina Werner, who I'll link to in the iCards, do beautiful work with Hero Arts Shadow Inks that apparently are a special formulation that when you stamp with them, it's a bit blotchy, because it often is with a clear stamp, let's be honest, and then it spreads and it kind of evens out. So I was really excited by what I bought, and I've done some tests and I'll show you what I've got. So I got just a few items actually. I got this clear stamp set which is called it has got a name. I don't know where the name has gone. That's a shame. I thought it had a name. They should put the name more prominently. Or maybe I'm being silly. Flower Garden. It's called Flower Garden. Tiny writing. And it's from Hero Arts. I think it's a 4x6 cling set. And it's really pretty. You can see I've only really used one stamp so far. And these shadow inks and actually these stamps do stain really easily, which is actually okay. It's actually a really good thing. It actually shows that the surface of the photopolymer, when it's been polymerized, doesn't have any crap on it that's making it really resist the dye. Photopolymer should be slightly porous. I mean, it is a gel, so it should have a slight porosity, so when things do stain a bit, that's actually a good sign. So I'm not worried about that. And it's got this happy hello in the middle that I'm probably not going to use. I just wanted some little flower stamps that I could use to make wreaths and just really basic kind of cards, like with sympathy cards that, you know, I think everyone should have a stash of cards on standby in case they need an emergency birthday card. So that was really the point. I actually ordered a layering set as well, which was I wanted the goldfish layering set, but they didn't have it, but I'm getting that at the end of the month. I really wanted that for a reason, but I got the orchid layering set, the big orchid layering set, and that should have come yesterday, but it hasn't come. And I thought I'll make this video anyway, and I'll do a separate video about that. So I was a bit disappointed it didn't come. The reason I want it is a very dear friend of mine just got a research grant for £75,000, which is the third time he's applied to get money for this project. He's worked so hard to get it, and I'm really, really proud of him. And I wanted to send him a card to say thank you. And actually the project involves fish, so I wanted to use the goldfish card just to kind of be funny. So I'm going to have to send him that at a later date, but we both love orchids, so I'll be sending him the orchid card hopefully this weekend if it arrives. I also got, just because it was cheap, this winter set, which is you can kind of see it through the label. It's some trees against a dark backdrop, and there's kind of snow falling in the background and a little hill, and that set is the winter trees, and it's a rubber, obviously a rubber stamp, and I love rubber stamps, I really do, but they're difficult for some techniques because you need to be able to see through them, which is why I got the clear ones. And I got some shadow inks, and these are the first shadow inks I've ever had. Green Hills, Passion Flower, Cornflower and Charcoal, which is a grey, not a black. And these are the standard shadow inks in cube format, which actually are quite economical even on Amazon. Now I know, so these are 4 cubes of coordinated hues shadow ink, acid free and fade resistant, quick dry on papers, raised ink pads. Doesn't tell me any more than that. I don't know whether they're in like the bold or the mid-tone or the whatever they want to call it set, but there they are. They were basically the only ones with appropriate colours for orchids that I could see on there that were Amazon Prime delivery, because I get free shipping, and were in stock and I could have them immediately. So I have those, and these are like £12, but if you go on Seven Hills Stamps Seven Hills Crafts. I'll put a link in the video description. I've seen these sets for much cheaper, so I'll link that, and I'll link the Amazon ones, because obviously some people like me don't do delayed gratification. We want it now, damn it. So these are supposed to kind of spread out, and I've got a real issue, and Lindsay the Frugal Crafter will be wetting herself laughing now, not because she has wetting accidents, well, not often, but because we had a conversation about this the other evening, and I cannot stamp for toffee with clear stamps. I have tried sanding them, I've tried glycerine, I've tried archival drying techniques, and I can't get a good stamped image on a clear stamp. Beautiful ones on rubber, but I can't get a good image on a clear stamp. So I put it down to buying shit stamps. I thought Hero Arts, Jen Maguire uses them, and she's the best card maker on YouTube in my opinion. Although Vicky Papaioannou is coming a very close second at the moment with some of the cards she's been making in the last month. Check out her channel, that's linked up in the video description as well. She is such a hidden gem YouTuber that not many people seem to know about, but she's fantastic. I really, really enjoy her work. So I thought, if they use Hero Arts, I'll use Hero Arts, and I'll see how they go. So first thing I did was I did a red rubber comparison with these inks, because I wanted to see if these inks really do spread out and sort themselves out when they dry. And then I did it with the clear stamps, and I'll show you what I got. So I'll just tell you the inks I used were the green on the left here. I don't know which way I'm going to show this video. I might rotate it when I edit it. But the green is Memento Pear Tart, which I'll link to in the video description. The red is Tim Holtz Distress by Ranger in Candied Apple. Gorgeous colour, I love that one. And this purple is the Passion Flower shadow ink from Hero Arts. So if you look at them, you can see Memento did not quite catch the detail of this butterfly. The text is okay. The other ones are okay. A little bit blotchy on the wings there, but it's okay. Distress actually did pick up that detail really quite beautifully. Writing is fine. Okay, that's my fault because I was using a block that was too small, so that's not really the ink. This one, beautiful detail on the wings here, absolutely gorgeous looking thing, and they really worked. And everyone says Distress doesn't stamp well. Sorry, bollocks, it stamped brilliantly for me. Then I did shadow ink. I'm not really impressed with that. Now I know how to stamp an image. It's not that I'm stamping badly. It's not that I'm using bad cardstock. This is a premium white stamping cardstock. It's an own brand line by a craft shop. It's not Nina Solar White. It's not anything fancy, but it usually stamps really well. As you can see, it did here. So why it didn't here, I don't know. Really blotchy and some pale patches. Bit of a worry. So I then tried one of the many tricks of the trade, which is to use Versamark, which is a watermarking ink here. Otherwise, basically, it's glycerine with a few other ingredients to make it even stickier. And what it does is you stamp it onto card. The idea is you stamp it onto, let's say, craft cardstock, and it soaks in water, changes the colour of the paper a little bit, and you get a kind of a watermark looking pattern, just very subtle. Because it's so sticky, people use it for embossing. That's why a lot of people have it. The stickiness, if you put it onto a stamp, can coat the stamp in a slight sticky layer, and that will help these very runny dye inks. I mean, Memento is really wet, as is Distress, and it's supposed to help them stick onto the stamp, and that helps it transfer to the paper. And there's lots of ways of doing it. You can just ink the stamp up with Versamark. You can ink it up with it and wipe it off with your fingers. There's all sorts of ways of doing it, and I know a lot of people that treat their stamps much like a roasting tin, that when they finish using them, they'll kind of go over them with Versamark and just leave it to dry. They don't kind of wash them properly, and that kind of layer of crap helps the ink to stick, and it doesn't really mess up the image. The other technique that I didn't try here, but I have tried in the past, and I don't really get much luck with it, but others do, is to put archival ink on it by Ranger. That's an oil-based dye ink. You put it on, and you just let it dry completely. Now, there's two ways of doing it. You can put it on and let it dry completely, or the way that I've done it, which I think many people do, is you put it on, you stamp it once, and you let it dry completely, and it will stain your clear stamps black if you use the black one, but it won't come off on the paper. It's a permanent ink, so it'll stain the stamp, but it won't come off on the paper. So I tried this with just Versamark. I'll fold the page so you can see. I found with Memento, it did help a little bit to get some of that detail. So I think with very runny inks like Memento, it helped a bit, but not much. Distress, it didn't really make much difference. If anything, I think it made it slightly worse in places, but Distress stamped brilliantly anyway. The shadow inks, I think actually it did improve them a little bit, but not enormously, and I just wasn't overly impressed because I got in my head that they were going to give me these beautiful images, and then they didn't. So I thought, well, I'll try it with a clear stamp and we'll see what that does. So I tried it with one of the little stamps from that Flower Garden set, and I first of all did it with the purple, and even after a couple of hours drying, you can see it's still splotchy and imperfect. And then I tried, you know, different pressures, different size blocks, didn't really work. And then I tried it with the green in that set, and it's still a little bit blotchy, it's not perfect. So then I did it with Memento, which was equally blotchy. So it was no better than Memento, and no worse than Memento. So that was a bit of a shame, really. And I'm still, the jury's out on those inks. I don't know, honestly, if they're worth having, because I get better images on rubber without them, and I don't get anything worse without them on photopolymer. I wanted to show you this, which is that winter trees stamp. Isn't it pretty? I love this. Let me just fold this page a little bit more so you can see it. Isn't it just gorgeous? And you could just make the front of such simple cards. Now that's stamped with shadow ink in charcoal, which gave a lovely, lovely stamp on this paper. So it's not the paper and it's not the red rubber. Red rubber was fine. And that's red rubber from Hero Arts that stamped absolutely beautifully in all those solid areas. But on photopolymer, it was just a bit crappy. Now, I love that image, and I had an idea for jazzing it up, and I just tried it out. You know, it's not perfect, but it's just a way you can get a slightly more interesting effect. And I think you could do an interesting Aurora Borealis in the same way. What I did here was I simply did Distress ink blending on the page. I made some marks to let me know where the hills kind of were. I did some green there, and I did some kind of yellow, and then I did some red areas. And if you cut this out, you just kind of get red and yellow shapes on the trees and green grass, like a kind of fall scene with falling leaves instead of snow. That's what I thought, and it was just a rough try. And I'll show you what I used for that. That was Distress in mowed lawn for the ground, scattered straw for the kind of middle of the sky, and then barn door, the sort of more reddish brown for the leaves of the trees. And I think you could do a really cool one with something like Twisted Citron and do like a faux Aurora Borealis in the winter sky. And then all I did was I simply stamped over it, I wanted it dried a little bit, with Ranger's Archival in jet black, and that sits perfectly on top of Distress. I could actually blend that Distress away now with a baby wipe once the Archival is dry, and the Archival in theory now shouldn't go anywhere, but the Distress will. So I can soften and blend out, and it's not taking any of the black, but I can soften and blend the red and the yellow just with a damp baby wipe here. And I can also do the same. When I put the green on, I just dabbed the blending tool with the barn door on, dot 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 across it, and I can blend those together and make a kind of brownish green, so it's not quite so spring day, because it's a little bit too much really. And the Distress inks, of course, will blend with the damp baby wipe on cardstock, but the Archival will stay where it is, and that's a lovely property to have, that you can keep things still with Archival. And if you watch Wendy Vecchi, who is brilliant, her videos at CHA and all of those sorts of conferences, she does all sorts of demos with layering of Distress and Archival together. I was watching them last night, and they are just so good watching her go. And her range of Archival inks, which are these ones with Wendy Vecchi written on them, are brilliant. And if you don't already do so, follow her on Twitter, because if you ask her a question, she will get back to you. She always replies to people who ask her questions, which is more than I can say for some other designers at Ranger, namely all of them who don't reply to tweets. One of them, who's no longer their creative director, I don't think has ever replied to anyone ever, and I think that's bloody rude. People spend a fortune on these people's products and just want some help with getting the best out of them, or some help with understanding how to use them properly, and they don't even dignify them with a reply. Now, I know they're busy people. I struggle sometimes keeping up with my comments, and I don't get that many on YouTube, but it doesn't take a lot of work to employ someone to at least do it so people get a reply, and it really winds me up that people have a Twitter account to promote themselves but don't ever help their fans. That's my knee, by the way. I just put it on the table because I'm stood up and it hurts, so I'm resting my knee on the table. And yes, I am wearing Lycra tights. They are actually recovery tights for athletes, but I use them because I get muscle spasms and my knees dislocate spontaneously, and it really helps with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome quite a lot. So that's my little mini haul, my hero haul from Hero Arts. I don't think I had anything else to show you particularly in that haul itself, but they were really just my first impressions, and obviously I'll be doing more things and projects with those items later. What I did want to do is do a little shout out to someone who is going to remain nameless, but I was offered in the comments on a video a few weeks ago a Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolour set, which is that beautiful 36 colour watercolour set that a lot of card makers really love to have. And she said that she'd bought one, I think had been sent to by mistake, or it was an unwanted gift or something like that. And I said, yeah, sure, and I gave my work address, and it was posted onto me. And when I opened the box, because it was very heavy, when I opened the box when I got home, bless her, she had been through my Amazon wish list, my public one, and found a whole load of books that she had that were on my wish list and sent them to me second hand, and a brand new DVD of the Tudors because that was on my wish list, and a pack of fat quarters, fabric for quilting and craft and so on, and some really lovely things. And it was such a nice thing to come home to basically a care package, totally by surprise from a total stranger. And that was such a kind thing of her to do. So I wanted to give you my first impressions of the Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolour set. I'll just pop it over here so that you can see it. So it's the one that comes with the beautiful green lid in this wonderful, almost atomic era box that we get. And when you open it, you've got some space inside the lid to swatch out the colours, which I have, and one of them was broken, but she did tell me that there was one broken, and that's not a problem, I can live with that. So the colours that you get don't have names on here, but I am told if I go on the internet I can find out what these are all called, and they are lovely colours, and I'm going to do a proper review of them later, but I just absolutely adore them. And I just say, because I'm here, that this colour here, number 50, if you could turn Jen Maguire into a paint, it would be that colour, because that is clearly her favourite colour in so many of her cards and things she makes. She loves that kind of teal colour, and it just reminds me so much of her every time I see that. So what you get are a series of reds, and then it goes into orange, a kind of yellow ochre, some yellows, greens, lots of greens and blues, including this absolutely gorgeous periwinkle blue over here. And then it goes into purples and browns, and then you get at the bottom a black, a white, and then what I think they call a silver, but it's really a pearlescent white, a gold, which I had a few minor issues with, and then a more of a coppery kind of metallic. And those metallics are beautiful, I have to say. Now, these are an Eastern watercolour. They are not designed really to work on the sized watercolour paper that we use in the West. They're designed really to work on rice paper or mulberry paper, and I'm going to do a proper review where I'll show that. But what I did first of all was I actually swatched them on card making cardstock, because that's got a similar-ish surface to rice paper actually. So I swatched them out, and the colours are lovely, especially I love this sunny yellow. Some of them keep a little bit of a gloss when they dry. I think I perhaps put them on a little bit thickly. And that colour that's sort of Jen Maguire in paint form is there. The periwinkle is this one. It's actually a little bit darker in person than it is. The interesting thing with them is the colours of the actual pans are so different from what they look like painted out. I think they're pretty much all dye-based with a few exceptions, because they're lovely clear colours, very bright, lovely purple. Some of them are very samey, like those two are pretty similar, but I want to try them out in more ways and find out how similar they are. I mean, I quite like that black. I love that kind of metallic gold there, the more coppery one. And of course this silver, which is really just a metallic white, I guess. Look at that, isn't it gorgeous? And then there's the white that you can't see there. The one I had a problem with was this one, which is number 91, which is this kind of gold. And what I think it is these are poured pans, okay? So these are not your usual extruded pan. So if you just look at this silvery white here, you can see it's pretty much just a kind of a cake of paint. There isn't, it's just paint as you would expect it to be. And it's a little bit dry looking, but if you compare that with one of the non-mica containing colours, because obviously the mica will make it appear a little bit drier. Let me just get one out. This is number 46, which is a gorgeous sort of quinacridone burnt scarlet kind of colour. And you can see it's just perfectly distributed. It's rolled at the sides, which is a hint that it's been poured, but there's no kind of binder sitting on the top. But what happened with that particular gold, number 91, you can still see it's got on the top at this end where my finger is, can you see there's a layer of gum arabic sitting on the surface? So it's like the gold pigment sank during the drying process. It's gorgeously sparkly, isn't it, under the light there? And it's got a layer of gum arabic on the top, so I had to add quite a bit of water to wet that gum arabic to get down to the layer of paint. And I had to paint it 4 times to actually get any colour on the page. I was just basically moving gum arabic around, which means I've now got a sticky patch here because there's so much gum arabic. But it's a beautiful colour. They're all gorgeous colours. I really love how sunny and happy they are. I'm going to try using them in some mixed media over the coming weeks, which will be lots of fun. I've actually got another acrylic in my Operate series coming up. I got inspired to do a colour on black, which I don't usually do, but I had an idea and I want to see if it works. And it's kind of based around sort of vines and tendrils and things. And the person who gave me the idea, actually, it was Lindsay the Frugal Crafter, with her, she gets sponsored by a company that sell peg stamps, which are sort of wooden stamps about this long, but they're a cylinder with a little tiny rubber stamp on the end. And the idea is that you can build up images from them. And she's done some lovely ones recently. I think she did a Christmassy one recently, and other ones recently where she's done a bit of watercolour with those Zig Clear Colour water reel brush pens, or whatever they're called. And she's done lots with tendrils and vines hanging. And I've had that in my head of tendrils and vines hanging for weeks and weeks and weeks now, and it's kind of crystallized now into something in acrylic, much larger and much brighter on a black background. No idea if it's going to work, but you know, we'll try it, we'll see how it goes. So that's going to be coming up. And on the subject of Zig Clear real colour brush marker things, bless her, and I really do love her videos very much. Christina Werner is a brilliant YouTuber, because she always calls every item by its full brand name every time she mentions it, so that when you're watching the video, you know exactly what she means. So she doesn't just say onto the paper when she's using 2 papers. She's really precise and always says exactly what she's using. And she's done several videos with the Zig Clear Clean Real Colour brush pens that I can't say, and every single time she mentions it, she calls them by their entire full name. And I just watch it thinking, how the hell are you remembering it to get it right like 20 times in a row? I can't even say it once, and I'm really jealous of that ability. But her videos are lovely. I know she's going through a busy patch at the moment, not posting as much as she used to, but her videos are fantastic. If you're into card making, she does a bit of home decor, a bit of mixed media. She's great. And also, I really love Jen McGuire, who actually is the person who got me into card making in the first place. She was the person who made me start thinking about how I could use... Oh, sorry, I just had the low battery warning. It may have made the image go a bit blurry there. She was the person who made me start thinking about how I could take mixed media work and turn it into cards. So she's the one to blame for all of that, bless her. And I think I owe a lot to people like her for getting me inspired enough to start making videos myself. So I hope that these videos, these little card related ones that I'm starting to do, are actually helpful. But I will be doing some proper card making tutorials in the coming weeks. I just need to basically get my shit together and actually do it. It's been a really busy patch for me. I've not been well. I'm struggling health-wise quite a bit at the moment. Nothing serious, just enough to make it, just that getting through the day is enough, and I need to sleep when I get home. So I haven't been making as many videos as I should, but I've got about 5 or 6 banked that I will be putting up, so there won't be any gaps really. I just might not be posting as many per week for a week or two, and then I'll be fine, I'll be back to normal, and I'll be posting. So thank you all very much, and just want to add on before I go, my subscriber count is rocketing. I just feel so blessed that it's going up. It's so lovely that you're all out there enjoying these videos. And what I did want to say, because a lot of people have asked me this actually, my Spindoctor's surgery watercolour tutorials, yes, there is an episode 3. Yes, I've already filmed it. I then didn't actually like the painting in it, so I'm going to make a completely new one with a different painting because I just decided it was crap. I think we might do a glazing exercise instead of what I came up with, which I just then didn't really enjoy too much. So thank you all very, very much, and good evening.